Hello, good morning and welcome to you all. I am Dr. David and today you are watching the Vocal Health Show. I am filling in for Dr. Smart, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, but we're going to have a great episode today because we've been listening to your comments online, and today we're going to be talking about the process of the vocal health production. So let's begin with the show. The first step in the process of the vocal production happens when the brain registers an impulse for sound. In this moment, the process of the inhalation and exhalation assumes a secondary function aside from assisting the providing of the necessary oxygen into your bloodstream. I would drop slightly to the degree of the amount of breath needed to communicate with the person that we are trying to communicate with. As the breath is taken in, our vocal cords spread apart to allow the breath to travel through our trachea. So the trachea is commonly known as the windpipe to most people. It's a tube and it's about 4 inches long and less than half an inch in the diameter in most people. So the trachea begins just under the larynx, which is our voice box, and it runs down behind our sternum. The trachea then divides into smaller tubes called the bronchi. There's one bronchi for each of our lungs. The trachea then forms a trunk of an upside down sort of looking tree and is flexible just like a vacuum tube, so that the head and the neck may be able to twist and bend during the process of breathing. The lining includes cells that secrete mucus along with other cells to bear very small hair-like fringes. The mucus then traps particles of debris, and then the beaten fringe moves the mucus up out to the respiratory tract, keeping the lungs and the air passages free. So when air reaches the base of the trachea, the diaphragm is then activated. Now, obviously, the diaphragm is a dome-shaped structure, and the diaphragm is our main muscle for breathing. So it's a dome-shaped structure it separates our chest and our abdominal cavities. The size of the chest of the cavity enlarges, creating a partial vacuum. The inhaled air fills this vacuum and expands into the lung sacs. The inhalation then moves the diaphragm downward, flattening the abdominal muscles, then sides to the back of the lower torso. There is an expansion outward, creating the appearance of an inflated abdomen. As the breath is released from the diaphragm then moves upwards, and from its dome shape is transformed into a cone shape, which reverses the process of inhalation. So if you're at home, or in the audience obviously, I'd like you to lay on the floor or on a bed, or anyway, on your back, and just slightly bend your knees. I'd like you to place the palms of your hands, the bottom of your ribcage, and I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose. Now this will allow your diaphragm to expand your stomach. So after 3, you're going to make a big ha sound. 1, 2, 3. Ha! When lying down the exercise, doing this exercise every day, it makes it become easier, and doing this exercise daily can also improve your breathing. So after this, the air then departs from your diaphragm and leaves the lungs and enters the larynx. Now, for those of you who don't know, the larynx is another name for the voice box, which is here. It forms at the top part. It forms at the top part of our windpipe, and is in the front of the neck, and it's protected by a bristly cartilage. Now the cartilage arches out at the front, and this is called our Adam's apple. So the larynx contains 2 bands of muscle called the vocal cords. Now they are located in the larynx, and the muscles of the larynx adjust the length and tension of the vocal cords to fit a fine tone and pitch. They are found at about the level of the Adam's apple in the neck, and the vocal cords are very small. They're about 18 millimeters in length for males and 11 millimeters in length for females. When you want to speak, the cords come together and they vibrate when you breathe out. Most of the time the vocal cords lie apart and they form a V-shaped opening. During speech, the vocal cords come together and produce a sound by vibrating. This sound is further enhanced by the vibration in the bones of the skull and other parts of the body. So this is why if you're ill and you have a head cold or a sore throat or anything, your voice does sound different rather than how it usually sounds. So I'd like you to try this in the audience and at home. I'd like you to place your fingertips on the near end of your voice box. So just place it here, and I want you to say the word zoo. 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 You should feel a vibration inside your throat when pronouncing the Z. What you feel is the vibration of your vocal cords as the air passes through the constricted glottis. Now I want you to say the word Sue and pay very close attention to when pronouncing the S. Sue. 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 There's no vibration in the S because the vocal cords are relaxed and separated. Okay, so the gap between our the two vocal cords are called the glottis, and this creates a buzzing noise when the vocal cords vibrate, which causes our voice pronunciation. The glottis is the area of the larynx and that holds the vocal cords. It also houses the vocal cords and the spaces between them. The glottis helps with the creation and the development of human speech. The glottis vocal cords create sound vibrations that make a buzzing sound. So this process allows speech to occur. The glottis especially helps with pronunciation. A person can speak in different dialects if they learn how to control the area of the body. The glottis is only about 1 inch long and is located amid in the lower part of the pharynx and the vocal cords. It leads into the windpipe and there is a measurement alter as a result of the vocal cords vibrating. After it has gone through the larynx and the air will pass through the pharynx, it can go into the nasal. The area will pass through the pharynx, it can go into the nasal or the oral cavity. So those three, the pharynx, the nasal and the oral cavity, are the three resonators that serve as the soundboards that reinforce, modify and enrich the buzzing sounds that the vocal cords have made, and they make them into speech. So the nasal cavity is to allow sounds to resonate when you stimulate your vocal cords. Now the nasal cavity serves as the main purpose of the cleaning the air that we breathe in just before it reaches our lungs. It does this with the help of the mucus which lines the nasal cavity. The air passing through the nasal cavity is warmed or cooled to within 1 degree of body temperature. In addition, the air is humidified, and dust and other particulate matters is removed by the brushy, short, thick hairs present in the vestibule. The cilia of respiratory epithelium moves the particulate matters towards the pharynx, where it passes into our esophagus and is adjusted then into the stomach. It also aids into our sense of smell and taste. So the oral cavity, which the air can also go out into, which is our mouth, and our nasal cavity, the nose. So the first section of our mouth is known as the oral cavity, or to some people the mouth cavity. This space is bordered in the front and the sides by 2 alveolar arches, which contain the teeth. Towards the back, it's bordered to the isthmus of the faces. The entire structure is also called the mouth. The structures within the mouth allow us to taste and chew food, to swallow food and drink. But the main important thing to us is that the mouth manipulates the air that comes up from our voice box so that we can form these into words. So we can form the air into and the buzzing sounds, then we can form them into words. So finally, today we're going to talk about is the articulators, which for those of you who don't know are our lips, teeth, gum, tongue, soft palate, hard palate, and our throat. These are set up in motion and they're able to cut up the sounds and turn them into intelligent speech. So the soft palate forms a muscular arch that extends back and down as a cone-shaped projection called the uvula. During swallowing, the muscles draw a soft palate and the uvula upward. This action closes the opening between the nasal cavity and the pharynx, preventing food from entering the nasal cavity. The hard palate is formed at the maxillary bones and in the front and the horizontal portions of the palatine bones in the back. The teeth are hard structures that are set up in the upper or lower jaw and are used for chewing food, but the teeth also give us shape and face, the aid process of speaking clearly, which are the final things our air goes through before it becomes speech. So the last thing is the body of the tongue, which is also known as the corpus linguae, is the portion of the tongue between the tip and the base of the tongue. The body is separated into two halves by the median sulcus. The body is separated from the base of the tongue by a V-shaped furrow, or the groove called the terminal sulcus. So thank you for tuning in today to our very special episode on the process of the vocal health production. I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and we tune in tomorrow where we'll be talking about a lot more. See you next time. Bye.